So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session. Today, we're going to cover how to self-source an HDR internship, the tips and tricks as to how to go about it. And hopefully after today's session, you'll feel more confident in approaching an industry partner with the opportunity to host an internship for yourself that more relates to your field of research. So before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kolanowski, and I'm one of few HDR Partnership Officers within the Graduate Research Education and Development team, also known as GRE+D. I'm joined today by my fellow colleague, Dr. Kerry Freeman, who's going to help facilitate this workshop. So she'll be watching the chat, so feel free to ask any questions, and she'll do her best to assist, or I'll answer them once I get a chance to at the end of today's session. So before we start, just some general housekeeping, which I'm sure that all of you are well versed with by now because of COVID. So please just keep your microphone off whilst we're delivering this workshop because we're recording today's session, and the same with your camera just because it helps with the bandwidth. Like I mentioned before, please use the chat function to ask any questions as you go. And within the chat, you can direct the questions to everyone or a particular person. It's completely up to you. Before we get into the content of today's session, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we meet. So QUT acknowledges the Turrbal and Yagara as the First Nations owners of the lands where QUT now stands. We pay respects to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits, and we recognise that these lands have always been places of teaching, research, and learning. QUT acknowledges the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QUT community. I'd also like to take the time to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which you reside, because you might not be zooming in from where we are zooming in today. Within today's session, what we'll cover is a basic generic information about what a HDR internship is before we progress to how you can self-source an internship. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll give you some preparatory tips as to how you can form a relationship with an industry partner and how you can then pitch that internship prospect to that industry partner. We'll also give you a video from a past HDR student that self-sourced, and we'll give you some training, resources, and support that's available to you whilst you undertake that self-sourcing journey. We'll then open the floor to you so you can ask any questions that you have, and please ask as many questions as you like because we're here to help you. We want to make sure that this journey is as easy as possible for you. With this, I just want you to start with the end in mind. What would you like to get out of today's session? Once you have a broader understanding of that, it makes it easier to kind of relate to the information that's going to be shared so you can understand how that can help you. So a basic overview as to what GRE+D is if you're not already aware. So our team looks at optional training for you as HDR students, and we look at development programs that support 12 skills within the advanced, lead, and engage pathways. So for myself, being in the industry engagement team, the top right of that circle on the screen you see right now is what I look after, which is the industry engagement, the commercialization, entrepreneurship, and the collaboration. We have two main goals here in GRE+D, and that's to help you complete your thesis and to equip you for life after your degree. And that's why the internships are really pivotal, because in this day and age, life in academia is more competitive to get into. So keeping your options open, having that industry engagement early on, so you've got the wide breadth of experience so you can understand where you're going to go after you finish your degree. So here I'll start with a video from David Sutton, who self-sourced a HDR internship, and I'm sure that you'll get so much out of this video.
My name is David Sutton. I'm a Faculty of Science PhD student at QUT. My research has been involved in laser-driven chemistry, so I do photocatalytic chemical reactions. Basically just means I use light as a catalyst. And the reason I use a laser is because we want to precision target exactly where we want a chemical reaction to happen. And what that lets us do is actually make micro-manufacturing technologies out of this approach that just use light and then a little bit of a chemical to actually create microstructures out of gold. So my internship project involved working with the Queensland Defence Science Alliance, which is basically a group that combines the different universities in Queensland and then targets research towards defence capabilities and projects. So my project in particular looked at extending the functionality of an existing detection prototype that we have which we use for detecting all sorts of different things in the field. My job was basically to try and give it new functionality by allowing it to work in multiple orientations and configurations. So the everyday duties involved doing a lot of experimental work, basically, under many different conditions. So there was a lot of just moving things around the lab to try and detect it in all sorts of weird places, and just to see what the limits of our ability to detect these different samples were. And then on other days, I would be analyzing all that data. And as a result of me and my fellow colleagues who also received this internship, they actually planned to have a big kind of symposium where we all get together and do a presentation on our internships and how we all went, and just to show kind of the quality of the science that's going on here in Queensland. I think that there's a lot that's come out of this project, both for me and for the QDSA. Personally, I think I've been able to see that I am maybe a little bit more capable than I give myself credit for sometimes. So when you get thrown into a new project after working on something different, you tend to think that you're only good at one thing, but actually your skills are really broadly applicable, and applying my gained skills to a new project was really eye-opening in a lot of ways, and kind of made me feel a lot better about my own capabilities that I've developed throughout my PhD. And I think everyone should have a go at it, just because it gives you contacts, it gives you opportunities that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and you meet new people, which is always really, really cool. For me, just gaining a little bit of that industry insight was really, really useful. Most people know there's two main paths after a PhD, academia or industry, and it was nice to get a little taste of that other side of the potential opportunities, to see kind of what would be waiting there if you chose to pursue the industry path. I enjoyed the aspect of kind of prototyping and the quicker back and forth that tends to be involved in industry. Having done this project, I'm really looking more strongly at an industry pathway kind of after I finish my PhD and I end up going out into the workforce. So I'm really excited for that, which is pretty cool.
So David Sutton had a really interesting internship experience, and he self-sourced this. And what we want to get out of today is to show you that the options are endless to you, and the self-sourced opportunities are more in line with your field of research. So in layman's terms, David was working with lasers, which is quite a fascinating internship, which we haven't seen happen before. And he really got a lot out of the experience. So hopefully after today's session, you'll feel more empowered to self-source and have those kind of ideas of who you can actually reach out to get an internship opportunity up and running potentially. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, just to give you some information as to what is industry, because people assume that industry relates to warehouses or such like that, but really industry refers to any potential end user of research, which can include businesses, the government business enterprises, non-government organizations, not-for-profit groups, and community organizations. So engaging with industry involves working with these groups directly through internships, mentorships, networking events, and activities offered by GRE+D. So throughout this session, I'd like you to think of an industry type that you're hoping to gain experience in during your degree, as this will help you relate to this content within this workshop better and will assist in engaging with the industry into the future. So what is an HDR internship? Realistically, the definition is quite broad because the projects vary significantly. It's a short-term, clearly defined project with and or for industry, and the project agreement must be approved by GRE+D. It can be a project that's a standalone or part of a larger project with the industry partner. But the project itself is formed between yourself, being the HDR, an academic mentor who has subject matter expertise and knowledge in the project, as well as the industry. So it can be shaped and molded to what you deem suitable with the assistance and guidance by the academic mentor and the industry. With our program, it's slightly different to an undergraduate work integrated learning placement, where the industry will maintain assignment of the project IP. And just to clarify, the project IP is just what's developed throughout the internship. Any background IP that you currently have will still be yours and you own that. It's solely the project IP that you create. As I mentioned, standalone projects with industry or part of a larger breadth of work and will be a minimum of 3 months or a maximum of 6 months in duration. If you undertake an internship during your candidature, The way that our program is facilitated is that your candidature will be paused, so you will have a zero load for your thesis. Any of your milestones will be pushed back by the duration of the internship. And the reason why we do this is because we want you to be able to solely focus on the internship without having any of those looming milestones, stressing you out throughout the internship. The way that we actually are able to do this is we enroll you into a shell unit known as ISN 004. And because of this, your scholarship will be paused for the duration of the internship. But please don't be concerned, because our internship program is always funded by industry. And that's because we want you to be able to still meet your routine living expenses. Oops. Sorry. So how can you secure an internship? And there's a number of ways that you're able to do that. The main two ways are applying for advertised HiQ HDR internships via our HiQ webpage. So we have two normal avenues of advertised internships, and that's via our normal QUT HDR internship program or via our third-party provider, HDR Intern. So these will be advertised on HiQ, and we send out an email every Tuesday to advise of all the opportunities that we have currently available. But also we have external programs such as the Nicholas Bowden program, where the internships are in France. We also have a STEM policy graduate internship program, Parliamentary Library of Australia summer research program as well. But if none of those apply to you, which is sometimes the case because some of these internships are quite heavily science or engineering focused, you can self-source, and that's why you're here today. So the main goal of self-sourcing, or the main, advantage of self-sourcing, is that you can make an experience that's more suited for you. So by identifying a potential industry partner from your contacts or network of contacts, you can establish that relationship. So you can utilize your academic mentors networks that they currently already have. And you can then pitch the internship with the external website that we have available with testimonials, as well as a program flyer, which explains the nitty-gritty details about our program and how it can benefit the industry partner. From there, you just contact GRE+D and we can help formalize the internship with our agreement. So with our self-sourcing an internship, we have a HiQ page which provides a breadth of information on how you can begin the journey for choosing your own adventure. The webpage, which Kerry has put in the chat just now, will provide you with the requirements of how you can self-source and what's required of you, for self-sourcing. And basically, one of those criteria is completing this workshop today. So you're already halfway there. I'll also chat about some things later on in the workshop, just to help understand exactly what's involved. And secondly, what's required is that you complete some requirements that I'll send to you in an email if you engage with us when you're looking to self-source. So why self-source an internship? And I've already touched on this before. It's because you get to create the opportunity. Having the initiative to find your own internship is one of the best ways to enter industry. It means you can ascertain the experience that you really want, which will be more satisfying for not only you, but the industry partners will be impressed by your enthusiasm, motivation, and maturity. So what can a self-sourced internship actually look like? As I mentioned earlier, all internship experiences are bespoke and standalone projects. However, a self-sourced internship will be one that is finely tailored to you and your skill set, which is secured through a mentor or an industry contact. It could also be a project that you have secured as part of a larger grant or a research collaboration. And look, as I mentioned, it really varies. So it's really hard to exactly explain what it can look like for you. So here I'll run through the process of what's involved in self-sourcing an internship. So the step one would be identifying a potential industry partner. And this is for you to do because there's so many prospects that are out there that it would be extremely difficult for us to give you ideas of where to start because we don't have the prior knowledge of what your academic supervisors, who they already engage with or who you already know. So the first 3 steps here in yellow are steps that we'll go through today to help you through this process. Step 2 would be to form a relationship with the industry partner. And throughout this workshop, I'll give you some tips and tricks as to how to do that effectively to hopefully ascertain that internship opportunity that you're really after. Then step 3 would be to pitch the internship to the industry partner. We'll have an exercise later where we can develop a pitch. It doesn't need to be perfect, But just practicing that pitch and then refining it to ensure that it's actually going to meet the needs of the industry partner and hit the target points that kind of make sense and make them want to know more. So hopefully you can get that internship opportunity. From there, hopefully you've got the internship up and running, and that will proceed to step 4, where you'd engage with GRE+D and we participate in finalising the internship agreement for you. Once that's been done, there's some pre-internship requirements that need to be done. So that includes the completion of a module, which is really quick in duration, as well as the completion of a work from home form, just in case, a will from home form, just in case there are any further issues that mean that you need to complete some of the duties from home. And then once that's complete, you would then commence your internship. Throughout the internship, there are some requirements as part of the will component, and that's to deliver a mid and a final internship presentation. They're not onerous by any means, but during the middle of the internship, you deliver roughly a 30-minute presentation, which opens the floor for questions after, which would include yourself, the industry partner, your academic mentor, and either myself or a fellow colleague of mine from the industry engagement team. Once that's done, you complete some post-internship requirements at the end of your internship. And then once that's complete, we'd provide you with a HDR Internship of Completion certificate, which you can share on LinkedIn. That certificate is signed by the Senior Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research, Christopher Barner-Qualick. So it's a really nice tool just to have on you're ready to share that you've engaged with industry throughout your candidature. So before we actually get into how you can do this, we've got a quick activity just to help understand what your network actually is. There's no wrong or right answer, or I guess there's right answers, but there's no wrong answers. So we just want to do a quick activity for you to identify your potential network and potential industry partners that you might already have in your repertoire that you could engage with. So I'll just ask Kerry to share a screen now where we've got a Padlet activity where you can enter things in anonymously of your potential networks. So if you wouldn't mind going to the link that Kerry's popped in the chat just now and adding some things in just here so we can get an idea of who your potential industry partners might be. CSIRO, good one. Bush Heritage Australia. So once you've added an option to the screen, that particular option that you've shared, please move that around the middle box just so it doesn't cover the other options. Thank you. Queensland Health, TMR. And see the different fields of research that you currently are involved with. You'll see the industry partners that you might have are vastly different. So that's completely okay. And obviously to be expected. Alluvium. I've not heard of them before. That's a new one. Faxis, CSL Pharma. Terrestrial Ecosystem Research Network. Who? See, these are all good options, and none of these are wrong by any means. And some of these people we've already engaged with for internships, they're already well aware of our program. So having that potential industry partner, you can always touch base with myself and my colleagues in the industry engagement team, and we can let you know if we've already engaged with them previously for internships, just so that it helps you ease into that conversation because they're already aware of our program. Thanks for adding those options, guys. We might go back to the presentation now. All right, so that brainstorming activity was really good. And you'll see that there's a lot of options which are dependent on the HDR looking at the internship opportunity. And I'm sure that you can expand on that. You can talk to your academics. So have a chat with them just to let them know that you're interested in an internship, because they might have engaged with an industry partner previously about a project that's coming up. And you might be the expert that they need to get that up and running and completed. So definitely converse with your supervisors about your wishes. So the more you tell people that you're interested in internships, the greater the chance they'll pass on the relevant information to you when they hear about it. Lastly, build your personal brand. That online, in person, however you want to build it, just make sure you've got that great reputation so that when people hear of you and associate your name, they think positively, which will help you in ascertaining that internship experience. So expanding on from that little exercise that we just did, HDR professional networks can include industry contacts, work and internship contacts, recruiters or research peers, and that drives down to further categories. So within the research peers, think of research colleagues, your research institutes, QUT alumni and academics in your field. Don't rule anyone out, because everyone knows different people which might assist in your journey of ascertaining an internship. As well as recruiters, that can include the not-for-profit, niche recruiting agencies, government bodies, multinational recruiters, and public service. For work and internship contacts, that can be your QUT supervisors, casual employers, or self-sourced internships. And lastly, with the industry contacts, that can be the informational interviews, the HDR society contacts, your professional associations, LinkedIn contacts, project partners, or event guests. Honestly, I know it sounds like I'm banging on a beat drum, but don't rule anyone out, because everyone is valuable. Just engage with them, chat to them about your wishes of wanting to undertake an internship, because who knows what could be available. Just having that chat will hopefully help to get that internship up and running. If you're sitting there and wondering, I've got no one, I can't think of anyone that I can engage with to potentially ascertain an internship, that's completely fine. We have a number of opportunities available for networking. So we have a HiQ page dedicated to networking events. Unfortunately, because we're in the holiday end of the year, there's not too many that are available, but check back in the middle of January and that should be populated again with more networking events coming up in 2023. But we recommend attending these networking events, attending conferences and the likes, and just chatting to your supervisors about their network, because they might be able to put you in contact with people that might help to expand your network even further. If you're sitting there and you think, wow, I've got an abundance of networks that I can engage with, that's great. What you need to do from here is categorize them into A, B, and C industry partners that might be prospects for you. And what I mean by A, B, and C is A being the category where I definitely want an internship with them, or I definitely want to have some engagement with them. B would be, I'd like to have an internship with them, but they're not my preferred. And C would be, yeah, I'd work with them, but definitely not my preferred. So place them in categories like that, just so that you can understand who is most valuable to you, or who you think will be most valuable to do an internship with, versus those that aren't. So this will help you in pitching your internship idea to them. What you do from there is do some preliminary research on each of your industry partner options, just to understand the challenges of the industry and the sector. Because the best thing that you need to do is to understand the challenges they're facing, so that you've got a potential solution for them. So when you're delivering your pitch, you can explain how you can fix that challenge. It'll keep them engaged, it'll keep them listening to you, and hopefully they'll see the value in you coming on board to undertake that internship. From there, once you've got that refined knowledge of who your A, B, and C industry partners are, as well as the preliminary research, you can then begin contacting the industry partners. If from all of this, you still aren't sure about how to network, or you need help identifying some potential networks, we have a tool at QUT called Employ Your Ability. So this assists with your path, your journey, your world, and it's got a number of modules online that you can complete to assist you through this process. So one of the modules which you'll see on the screen here is called Connections Opening Doors. So this will help you to connect to your current and potential professional peers, mentors, and guides. Another is creating and maintaining a powerful first impression. So as you will see, all of these tools are really valuable for networking because you want to put your best foot forward because first impressions really matter. To access this employability resource, Kerry's put a link in the chat, which you can save, you can bookmark, you can do with as you please, because we really recommend utilizing what's available to assist you through this process. The other thing is that GRE+D as a whole, we offer networking workshops. So we have a wonderful Karen Carbu, who's the HDR careers educator, and she delivers a number of different workshops to assist in things exactly like this. So please definitely engage with what we offer here at GRE+D because we deliver these workshops for you. Once you've identified your network, the next step is to form a relationship with the industry partner. So as I mentioned earlier, doing those categories to A, B, and C industry partners or prospective industry partners, and then doing a preliminary research, you can then develop an elevator pitch, which is a short persuasive speech to spark interest in who you are and what you do. Your main aim for the elevator pitch is you want to grab the attention of the industry partner. So open your elevator speech with something captivating and relatable. So for instance, this could identify a common industry pain point they'll be familiar with. So as I mentioned earlier, doing that preliminary research will help to understanding the challenges that the industry partner faces. So you've got that prior knowledge of things that are the industry pain points, and then you can spark curiosity by telling them you found a solution to that very problem. Once you've done that, you want to summarize what you do, then say how you do it and what's the outcome, because there's nothing more than just speaking without showing the evidence behind your work. You also need to be ready for more questions because this is going to spark curiosity, hopefully with the industry partner, and they'll have questions for you, which could be an array of different things. So just make sure that you're leaving this to be an invitation for conversation and not just an ad slogan. We have additional resources to help with examples for elevator pitches, which Kerry would have shared in the chat just now with some links. From here, I'm going to put you into breakout rooms just so you can practice with your peers about what a good elevator pitch might be. You can do this exercise or you don't have to, but obviously we want you to be prepared, and having that practice now with your peers who aren't going to judge you is probably a good point. But after we finish with the breakout rooms, I'll deliver my elevator pitch, and I would welcome anyone that's done an elevator pitch to do the same as well. So we'll break you out into we'll put you into breakout rooms now. We'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes to deliver an elevator pitch and share with your peers. And then we'll bring you back to the main room where I'll share mine, and anyone else that feels comfortable can share theirs as well. So I'll just pause the recording now. All right, so it seems everyone's back now. So I've just resumed the recording. I hope that you all got something out of that experience and have somewhat of an elevator pitch, even if it's not a well-refined one. But I'll go first in sharing my elevator pitch. And when I've delivered this elevator pitch with my colleague Susan, ours have been very different in nature, even though we've done the same type of work. So mine is more about the internship program, whereas Susan's was more about the industry engagement aspect and providing or leveraging those opportunities for the students, whereas my approach is more designed at industry partners. So my elevator pitch is, hi, my name is Simon Kolanowski, an HDR Partnerships Officer at QUT. I understand that projects can get delayed and finding suitable resources can be challenging, but what if I told you that I could help? Working at QUT, I can source a knowledgeable higher degree by research student to undertake a specified project to not only learn valuable skills, but to get this project wrapped up in a matter of months. Here at QUT, we have subject matter experts, including that of our academics, who are on standby awaiting to assist. I'd love to be able to chat with you further to see how I could help. So as you can see from that, it's opening the floor to conversation. It's identifying that there might be a challenge that's identified by the industry partner and saying that I could help. So my elevator pitch is quite broad, so it's suitable for all of the industry partners that I could be engaging with. If I wanted to, I could look at the industry partner in particular, look at some things that I noticed that might be a challenge for them in particular, and change my elevator pitch to suit. Was there anyone here who would like to share their elevator pitch or their what they've come up with in that quick time frame in those breakout rooms? Feel free to unmute and turn your camera on if you'd like. There's absolutely no need though, so if no one wants to, that's completely okay. All right, we might just move on. So from the elevator pitch would then form an informational interview. An informal question and answer meeting, which is between a person seeking more information about a particular job, career, organization, or industry, and a person already established in that field of work. The really important thing to note with an informational interview is that this is not a place to ask for an internship. This is a place to ask questions that will help you pitch an internship to the organization later on. We have some resources which Kerry would have put in the chat just now, which include some questions to ask in an informational interview. It's got an informational interview 101 and why you should do it, as well as how to request, conduct, and follow up from an informational interview. So just as an FYI, for everyone in attendance today, we will circulate this PowerPoint after the session. So there's no need to copy all the links in the chat if you don't have the time to now. They'll be made available to you after the fact. The secret to becoming career competitive with informational interviewing is just ask, listen, and learn. The best thing is to focus your attention on listening rather than speaking. So don't make this a session where you're delivering all the information. Observe and listen to what's being said in response to what you've mentioned to the industry partner. So establishing those topics of conversation, ensuring the focus is on their experience and not yours. So be curious, ask what worked best for them and what they might do differently during candidature or job search. So it's just getting that understanding and being really invested into what that person is sharing with you. The other thing is to always be gracious and, assess their interest in further mentoring. So don't underestimate their value and always be grateful for their time, because some of the people that you're doing this informational interviewing with might be quite time poor. So even if they've given you 10 minutes of their time and you don't think that's a significant portion of time that they've given you, that might be all that they have. So just always be grateful. If you have good rapport, ask if they're interested in a longer catch up, possibly over coffee. So it's a bit less formal, a bit more relaxed, and you can kind of be yourself without the stress or the nerves. If that then goes well, ask if they would consider being your employability mentor. From that, this expands your network, which can then prompt to an internship later down the track. I would do this breakout room, but I think I might give it a miss for now. What we'd normally do in this workshop is we'd break you out into groups and just allow you to have a smart, engaged, and curious conversation. So one of the conversation starters was, tell me about your research topic. This is a great activity because it, prompts you to think outside the box and, explain things in a bit of layman terms, which would help you for those informational interviews, those elevator pitches and the likes. But we'll skip that for today's workshop. So on the screen now is Liz mentioned, the editor-in-chief in the conversation. And she delivered this great quote, which makes so much sense. So she said, many people in industry don't have PhDs, and it doesn't mean that they're stupid or they need to be patronized. It does mean that you need to cut through the jargon of your field to be able to communicate your research in plain terms to a broad, non-academic audience. Smart and curious people won't be able to engage if they can't understand what you're saying. And this is really, really, really important, because to you, having done your research for however long you've done it, all those terms that you're familiar with make sense to you, but not everyone's going to understand what you mean if you're saying that to them. So we have a competition known as 3MT, which is a 3-minute thesis, and Visualize Your Thesis, which are both activities to kind of present your research in a more layman terms to a general audience. So it assists with, achieving this and helps you be able to relay your information to a general audience later down the track for things like ascertaining an internship or applying for jobs within industry, anything you can think of. So research communication is defined as a process of interpreting or translating complex research findings into a language, format, and context that non-experts can understand. It goes way beyond the mere dissemination of research results. So we really encourage you to participate in both the 3-minute thesis and visualize your thesis. If you're not already well-versed in being able to, share what you do within your research in a more broader context, which can be easily understood by the general audience, because this is going to not only assist you with ascertaining an internship, but it's going to help you later down the track when you're looking at career prospects once you've finished your candidature. The last step that we'll cover in this workshop is the pitching an internship to a potential industry partner. So we've gone through the networking, we've gone through the informational interviewing, and now we're at the pitching the internship. So what you want to do is first thank them. Thank them for donating their time for the informational interview and explain what stood out to you from the interview. So remember how I mentioned that you want to be able to listen and learn? Take in some really key points and some key facts that you've learned from that person, and make sure to drill that home when you're thanking them, so it shows it, to the person that you've met with that you have been listening and paying attention to what they've said. From here, this is when you pitch an internship with the QUT HDR Internship website and the program flyer, which I mentioned before. And it's really important to be familiar with the program you're proposing. So if you at all need further information about what the program itself is, you can talk to myself or my colleagues in the industry engagement team. We'll be happy to give you that information. Not only this, but we can set up a Zoom to give some further information if that's needed. But at this stage, we wouldn't encourage you to say to meet via Zoom because you're still in that early stages. Next, you provide the evidence. So briefly demonstrate the value that you would bring to be able to add to the organization through the internship. And again, this comes from the analyzing the challenges they might see and seeing how that you could actually tackle that challenge so that the industry organization can overcome that. Last, you want to provide your industry CV. So make sure that this is not an academic one, because industry, as much as the publications are great, they don't necessarily hold much weight in terms of applying for an internship with industry. So just be mindful of that. If you need assistance with providing an industry CV, you can always reach out to Karen Carvey, the HDR careers educator here at GRE+D, as she would be able to assist you with that. Also, ask the industry partner that you've been meeting with if they'd like to be introduced to the GRE+D team. Because we can, like I mentioned before, we can chat to them further about the specifics of the program and look to then get the internship agreement fully executed for you to commence the internship. So it's really important that you know what's relevant. And this comes down to the industry CV versus the academic CV. So with the internship that you've pitched to the industry partner that you've communicated with, assess your relevant skills versus what's required for that internship opportunity. Put that into your industry CV and it will stand out really well and help to further evidence why you'd be able to provide assistance to this industry partner. Look at your education and refer back to previous unit outlines for subjects that you've completed throughout your undergraduate studies. Also look at your relevant employment experience. So if you've already got a repertoire of industry experience, definitely use that to draw upon within your application and your industry CV that you're going to submit. Also, don't forget about your research topics. So I know that's first and foremost what you're thinking about, and it is important, but please don't drill home just on your research topic. It's important, but it's not the most important thing about your industry CV. So definitely look at your research topic and how it can relate to the proposed internship opportunity with the industry partner. Then what you would do is prepare for the interview by making a short list of examples. So some things that you've achieved and how you've gone about it, what was the outcome. If you're not sure of your strengths, there's plenty of resources that we have available here at QUT. So the VIA Character Strengths Survey is great to allow you to understand what your greatest strengths are. So when you take that survey, it provides you, it allows you to find a meaning and purpose. It helps boost relationships. It manages your stress and health, and it can help you to accomplish your goals. So there's a number of benefits from undertaking that survey because you might learn more about yourself than what you actually currently think. So it might seem tedious, but definitely worthwhile to undertake that survey. It's quick, it's 15 minutes, and will help you enormously through this process. If you're wanting to prepare for an interview or the internship, because let's face it, you might not have undertaken an interview in a very long time, we have some resources which are available. So Will From Home is an online resource that we have available, and it gives you the tools to prepare for the work integrated learning experience. It also gives you some tools to succeed in your work integrated learning activity. One big thing is that for the international HDRs, you might not be well versed in what the Australian workplace looks like, or the cultural things to expect, or to, I guess, that are accepted within the Australian culture. So there's also a module on that to help you get prepared for what to expect whilst you undertake the internship. There's also a module to assist in learning how to undertake a work integrated learning activity in an online environment. So with our internships, it's important to note that they don't need to be done in person. So if you've got an industry partner that's not in Queensland and they're happy to, host you for an internship solely remotely, that is completely okay. So this work integrated learning module will prove beneficial in understanding what's actually required and how you can go about that as well. So a link to the ASIN modules will be in the chat right now. And we also have a tool at QUT called Big Interview, and some of you may have heard of it already, some may have not. So this tool helps you to practice virtually for an interview. What it will do is it'll track your facial recognition, your eye contact, your speech, and it'll give you real life feedback as to how you've presented yourself within that interview. So definitely utilize these resources because they're valuable. Another tool is another ASIN module, which is helping to embark on a work integrated learning activity while studying in Australia, and helps you to understand the exciting opportunity that it actually is. So again, the link is in the chat where you can refer to all the ASIN modules that are available to you here as a QUT student. So lastly, I'd like you to just be familiar with the HDR Industry Engagement Registration Form. So this form allows you to submit your interest in engaging with industry, just so that myself and my colleagues are aware that this is something you're wanting to do. It adds you to our mailing list, and it creates a profile that you can update as time goes on if your interests change. The other thing with this form is you can trigger an email to your academic supervisors, which is automatic, and it will allow them to understand that you're wishing to undertake an internship. So it kind of prevents you needing to actually chat with them to say this is what you wanted to do, because it shoots that email on your behalf. So it can help you in that step early on, or you can indicate that you don't want it to trigger that email and you can still have that conversation with them. It's completely up to you. Another thing to note is that when we receive internship opportunities that an industry partner wants a HDR for, sometimes we don't have the ability to advertise them because the industry partner in particular wants a HDR tomorrow. That might not be the exact situation, but we have very limited time to fill the internship spot. So we don't advertise it, and we look at our pool of applicants that have submitted an industry engagement form. So it's really crucial that you submit this form so you can be included in the talent pool search for any internship opportunity that isn't advertised. So definitely recommend submitting this form so that we're aware of your wishes. One thing to note with this form is just please ensure you've selected internship as an option, just so, again, so that we're aware. So the link for that registration form should be in the chat just now. But again, this will be circulated after the session, so there's no need to complete that right now. So how can you keep up with GRE+D? So each Monday, weekly, we send the HDR Matters newsletter to all current HDRs. This newsletter will let you know of any workshops that we have coming up within that week. So as I mentioned earlier on in this workshop, definitely recommend utilizing the resources and tools that are provided to you with HDRs to assist in building those skills, which will then help to ascertain an internship. So as I mentioned, the HDR Careers Educator Karen Carvu does deliver a number of workshops surrounding careers and how you can, enhance your skill set to make it easier for you to transition after you finish your candidature. On the right-hand side is our HDR internship opportunities. It's sent Tuesday and it's sent weekly. This newsletter is sent to all current HDRs as well as current supervisors. So the reason why we do that is so that if you see an opportunity that you might be interested in, your academic has received that email so they can refer to it as well, and hopefully you already know about it. Or if you haven't seen the email, sometimes we've heard of academics seeing this internship opportunity and letting their HDR know that they'd like them to apply for it or think that it would be a good fit. So definitely have a look at the internship opportunities email each Tuesday. It's a bright orange looking thing at the minute. And we also have some other information in there as required. So we do also have information about the design sprint currently. We have another session coming up, which is on the HDR internships, and that's tomorrow at 10 a.m. You're more than welcome to join if you'd like. I assume that most people here today probably are well versed in the internships program and just wanted more information about how to self-source, and that's completely okay. But if you're not, definitely come along tomorrow to watch our HDR internship session where you'll get some more in-depth kind of information about what the program entails. We also do have a number of workshops available in 2023, but given we're close to the holiday period, I didn't want to overwhelm you with seeing some workshops in 2023 because that's a bit much. There's also going to be a link in the chat right now for our HiQ page where you can see all the training and resources, training and workshops that we deliver. So thank you for coming to the end of the session. I hope that you learned some valuable tips and tricks. I'd love to hear your thoughts of this session. Your thoughts are anonymous, but what it will mean is that you can give us some information about how we can improve this session, what you thought worked, what you thought didn't. So I'd definitely value the feedback from yourselves. There will be a link in the chat right now, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. We'd love to hear your feedback just so that we can make this session as useful and beneficial for our HDRs as possible, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're wanting to make this a great process and make this easy for you, as easy for you as possible. Whilst you fill out the feedback or open up that link so you have it handy, I would just like to give you some information about the HDR Design Sprint, which is coming up in February of next year. So the HDR Design Sprint is a 1-week intensive program with part-time work required pre and post sprint, where high degree research students lead sprint teams groups around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or more colloquially known as SDGs. Using a design-led qualitative research approach, the sprint team uncovers and explores the trends, technologies, and challenges of the SDGs related to an industry sector. Here, teams then explore and refine opportunities, concepts, and business models that align with SDGs and deliver value to industry partners. The United Nations SDGs help organizations measure and report impact and decide where to align behavior, process, and regulatory change efforts. For many businesses, knowing how to make SDGs relevant remains challenging, impacting their overall acceptance and achievement. This design sprint program seeks to unpack the digital growth opportunities of the Sustainable Development Goals, seeking to shift the SDG narrative from corporate social responsibility to corporate social opportunity. But with this design sprint, we recommend getting in quick because there's limited places. The program is strictly limited to 40 HDRs. And in recognition of your time commitment, a $500 stipend will be made available to those who participate in this sprint. It's an amazing opportunity to not only work with industry partners, but for HDRs to build on their research and industry engagement skill set in a short amount of time. So to learn more or to apply, please visit the link that's in the chat right now or on the screen, or please send me an email on hdr.intern@qut.edu.au. And I can give you some further information to assist with that. And on the screen right now is myself and Susan. We'd be most happy to help answer any questions. So please reach out to us and we can do our best to assist. And now I'd love to hand over the floor to any of you in attendance. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to unmute. You can turn your camera on if you'd like, or just put your questions in the chat and I will answer them as I go. Okay. So Adeline asks, when do the applications for the design sprint close? So the design sprint applications close mid-January at this stage. So you've got plenty of time to look at what your schedule looks like for next year and submit an application from there. So there's plenty of time to think about it over the holiday period. So please don't feel stressed in needing to apply right now. The other good thing with the design sprint is what I've mentioned throughout this workshop is the networking opportunity. So this year with the HDR design sprint, we have wonderful industry partners. So we've got the Department of Resource, we have Officers of the Queensland Chief Scientist, we've got ARIP, Avanade and Thies, and they're really great organizations that are really focused on meeting these SDGs. And not only that, but just having those networks, those people to rely on, it's really valuable for you, and you can draw on that into the future. So just as a note, with the design sprint, limited to 40 places, but those 40 places will not be assigned until after the applications close. So we'll be looking at the research field that you are in and then the faculty, because what we want is a really diverse mix of students to formulate really in-depth, comprehensive discussions to look at every single avenue of these SDGs. So if you're an education student, you're not going to be ruled out. So please have a look and have a think about if it's suitable for your time frame, and definitely apply. So Bridget's asked, can an internship be based somewhere other than Queensland? Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, with the advertised internships that we have a third-party provider known as HDR Intern. HDR Intern are based in Victoria. And so a number of those internships come from industry partners that are in Victoria or New South Wales, but they allow the opportunity to happen remotely. So absolutely, the internship can be based anywhere in Australia. Just let us know and we can kind of work with it from there. So Sarah's asked, what happens if the company I reach out to has their own internship program that doesn't necessarily agree with QUT policies? So Sarah, with that, if you're willing to undertake the internship program with an industry partner that doesn't have the same kind of like-for-like that QUT has, you would need to take that outside of the QUT program and likely need to apply for leave for that period, because what we'd need for our program is we need to utilize our agreements. So unfortunately, in that instance, it's a bit different. That's technically self-sourcing, but it wouldn't fit into the normal scope of the QUT program, unfortunately. We can definitely touch base about that more if you'd like to send us an email, and we can look into that a bit more if you'd like. So just send us an email at hdr.intern, and I can go through that with you in more depth. Was there any other questions from anyone else that I can help with? If anyone has more, has a question but would rather ask it offline, again, feel free to email us or give us a phone call, because we're always happy to help. All right, well, it's 2 o'clock on the dot. I might wrap up the workshop there. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you got a lot out of this workshop, but if you, like I mentioned, if you have any other questions, please feel free to let us know, as we're more than happy to help. Hope you all have a lovely day.